Hey there, welcome back to The Daily. This is Adriana. What a treat to be back here with you today on the meditation cushion or chair, depending on where you practice. So, for today's practice, we're going to continue on with this theme of acceptance. And I wanted to give us maybe a little bit more of kind of like a practical, really kind of like tactile, hands-on way of thinking about self-acceptance, which if you have ever been in a situation where, maybe you find it really kind of difficult to come to terms with some of your past bad behavior, or maybe you have been in a position where, you unintentionally hurt somebody. You kind of like lashed out in a moment of anger, or unintentionally caused harm when you didn't really mean to. I asked one of my teachers about this a number of years ago of like, I'm feeling really regretful about this thing. And her advice was essentially that regret is kind of a useless emotion because there's not anything that we can do necessarily to go back in the past and make amends. So regret is just a way of kind of getting stuck in the past rather than positioning ourselves in the present where all of our choice exists. So, this framework that she gave me for thinking about how to essentially forgive ourselves and ease any regret that we might be feeling is that we reflect, repair, renunciate, and resolve. So I'll talk us through this. Reflect, repair, renunciate, resolve. So the very first step in this is to reflect. We take some time to think about whatever it is that we're feeling guilty or regretful about. And we think to ourselves, did that cause harm? Did that cause harm, whether intentionally or unintentionally, right? Because intention is an impact. These are two very different buckets here. Sometimes we don't intend to cause harm, but the impact is that we do, and so we need to reflect back on it. Was this harmful, whether intentionally or unintentionally? And then the second step is to repair. So if it is available to us to make amends to whomever it is that we harmed, and this might mean that we apologize, it might mean that we explain our actions, but we repair or make reparations if at all possible when we have caused harm. The third step is to renunciate. And what we're renunciating here is our bad behavior. We think to ourselves, okay, this caused harm. I don't want to do that again. So I renunciate that behavior. I renunciate. I'm right now vowing to give up my hair trigger anger whenever I encounter something like this. I'm renunciating that way of thinking or that way of seeing that causes harm. And then the fourth and final step, and maybe the most important in this series, is to resolve to do better. It doesn't mean that things change overnight, especially if it's like a really kind of deeply habitual, ingrained pattern or behavior or reaction. But we make the resolve as sincerely as we can muster to do better moving forward. And sometimes that means that we need to educate ourselves further. Sometimes that means that we hit the meditation cushion more frequently so that we have some space to catch ourselves before our emotions take over, right? So we resolve in whatever way we possibly can to do better. So recap, regret is essentially a useless emotion because it keeps us stuck in the past. Choice only exists in the present. And so whenever we find that we have done something that really embarrasses us, causes harm to another person especially, we reflect, repair, renunciate, and then resolve. So hopefully that allows us to let ourselves off the hook a little bit, right? In the spirit of accepting ourselves, our blind spots, our bad behavior, and moving on from a place of resolve and acceptance. So let's get down to practice, wherever we happen to be, taking a moment to decide on our seat. And as always, making sure that our seat feels really sturdy, sustainable. We're making contact with this representation of earth. Feet flat on the ground if we're seated on a chair, or legs loosely crossed in front of us. Maybe sitting zazen on our shins. And so really making sure that our posture is sturdy here. And then taking a moment to decide on our gaze. So eyes open or eyes closed, your call. And we'll take a few moments as always to open our practice by opening our senses. It's locating ourselves in space. So shifting the attention over to sound. Just receiving the sound of the space that we're in. Perhaps any sounds that are coming through on my end. Perhaps any easily discernible sounds that are in your space. Just taking in their tone, their texture. Maybe even hearing the distance between the sounds, their proximity to you. Just continuing to rest our attention in the field of sound and turning the attention to touch. So just feeling into the weight of the body against the cushion, the floor, the chair. And if we find that we are holding on physically, seeing if we can soften, allowing the floor, the chair, to really support us fully. Taking in the texture of clothing on the skin. Temperature of the air around us. And then dropping into the feet. Just feeling the feet here. Space between the toes. Texture, temperature. Feeling where the feet make contact. It's bringing a bit of interest to our direct experience here. Tracing the attention across the shin bones. Circling through the kneecaps, tracing along the thighs. Landing in the hips. Feeling where the sit bones meet the chair, the cushion. And then moving the attention to the belly, and the chest. Just landing here in the belly, the chest. And establishing contact with the body, breathing. So again, even here, perhaps bringing a bit of interest, a bit of curiosity to the texture, the tone of the breath today. Just noticing what it's like to breathe today. Similar but different than any other day. Tip of the nose, back of the throat, belly. And then wherever, however the breath is most available in the body, most easily felt today. Just dropping our anchor of attention here, home base, the place that we return to. And we'll continue into practice. Just using that singular instruction that as our minds wander, which they naturally will, just noticing when we've left our breathing, acknowledging what captures our attention, and then gently, firmly coming back to the breath in the body. So as we settle into practice together, very good likelihood that our minds are simply replaying, regurgitating whatever came before this. Maybe we find ourselves entirely lost in thought, planning, etc. Of course, if that's the case, no big deal. Simply accepting where we've landed. Light touch of recognition and feeling the breath in the body. That continual return. Just feeling our bodies in space, breath inside the body, and allowing ourselves to be here. Just holding space for ourselves. And again, if we've left our breath, left our body, no big deal. And it's gently ushering the attention back, relocating ourselves in space, and just allowing ourselves to land. And feeling the weight of the body, and the vacillation of breath as it moves through the body. And just allowing ourselves to be here. This is it. So there can be something very instructional and informative about that moment that we catch ourselves mid-thought, and really just locking eyes with our thought in that moment, and seeing what our mind has landed on or latched onto, what we're finding interesting or important, and then simply making the choice to set it down and come back to the breath in the body. And again, feeling our way back, body in space, breath inside the body. And when we return, maybe even offering ourselves the affirmation, this is it, just this, and allowing ourselves to land. And then in our final few moments of practice here, it's closing out with a little bit of sweetness, hand on the heart, maybe just giving ourselves a little credit And then as you're ready, just allowing formal practice to drop and coming back in together at your own pace, no rush. Great. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Enjoy. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow. Tomorrow, daily. We do this daily. I'll see you back here tomorrow.